Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something really special. We're looking at a fascinating hyper-condensed 25-second cinematic snapshot of a student's transformative academic journey. We're literally going to take this incredibly brief window of time and stretch it out frame by frame just to understand that profound shift from a wide-eyed beginner to a fully seasoned graduate. It's an absolutely remarkable visual arc, and we're going to break down exactly how that transformation happens.
So let's just dive right in at the very beginning. The clip opens up in those first 4 seconds with this striking close-up. You see the lab equipment, you see the student putting on that crisp, pristine lab coat, and then the text overlay gives us our foundation, started with curiosity. Everything begins right here because, this isn't just about showing up to a classroom. That lab coat, it represents stepping over a literal and metaphorical threshold. It's this cinematic moment of pure potential where a tiny spark of a question in the mind translates into actual physical action in the laboratory. And that perfectly sets up phase 1 of our breakdown, starting with curiosity.
Now, this brilliantly illustrates the whole core theme of our explainer today. We're really looking at this student's practical lab work as a modern, deeply personal form of alchemy. Historically, alchemy was all about trying to turn lead into gold, right? But here, the definition we're pulling from the creator is the metaphorical transformation of raw curiosity and base chemical reactions into profound, hard-earned life lessons. So the gold isn't a metal at all. The gold is the knowledge and the resilience that you build over time. But of course, moving past that romantic initial spark, we hit the reality of the work itself, which brings us to phase 2, reactions into lessons.
Okay, so between seconds 4 and 8, the honeymoon phase of that initial curiosity kind of hits the grueling, structured reality of the scientific method. Step 1 involves mixing the chemicals. Step 2, actually engaging in the physical, practical work at the bench. And step 3, meticulously filling notebooks. This is the grind. It's the repetitive, absolutely necessary documentation of trial, error, and observation. And you can see the cinematic lens shift here, from the wonder of putting on the lab coat to this intense laser focus on the hands, the beakers, and the ink on the page. But that physical grind we just talked about, it transmutes into something so much greater. As the text perfectly puts it, turned reactions into lessons. It's such a powerful statement, because the chemical reactions in those beakers, they're just subjective facts, right? But when they get processed through the student's practical work and all those filled notebooks, they become subjective, internalized lessons. Actually, they become true knowledge. Now, an academic journey of this magnitude is rarely something you survive alone. And that brings us to phase 3, memories and friendships. From seconds 8 to 13, the isolated focus of that solo student totally expands. The footage suddenly introduces group photos with classmates. We see the making of memories, the forging of friendships, and, this is huge, the shared survival of, quote, countless lab reports. The cinematic isolation of the early lab bench gets completely replaced by a community. And these aren't just passing acquaintances, these are the allied you absolutely need to navigate these academic trials. So the really crucial point here is that these friendships aren't just incidental to the journey, they are forged by it. The shared burden of those intensely demanding coursework requirements, those countless exhausting lab reports, that acts as the very crucible that forms these unbreakable bonds. It's kind of like trauma bonding in an academic setting, transforming an individual's struggle into collective strength. So, with that foundation of hard work and community laid down, we enter our final act. 7 semesters culminating. Let's actually look at this timeline to see how this builds across the whole experience. The creator condenses literally years into seconds, but visually mapping it out like this shows the immense perseverance required. Semester 1, that initial curiosity sparking in the crisp lab coat. Fast forward to semester 4, right in the thick of it, the countless lab reports, the late nights, leaning heavily on those forged friendships. And then finally, semester 7, emerging on the other side for that triumphant senior year photo and graduation. 7. It's incredibly easy to just read that number on a screen and completely forget the weight behind it. 7 semesters of relentless, compounded effort. 7 semesters of showing up, failing, learning, and trying again. Then, at seconds 13 to 18, we hit a massive emotional shift. The text highlights 7 semesters of hard work right alongside what it calls the best senior year photo. And this image serves as this triumphant, undeniable symbol of impending achievement. The pure exhaustion of those middle semesters has clearly cleared out, and what's left is the visible, glowing confidence of someone who has officially weathered the storm.
And what's really interesting here is how beautifully this book ends the entire cinematic arc we've been analyzing. Over on the left, we start with that initial curiosity, the novice looking at the equipment, stepping bravely into the unknown. And on the right, we end with the final graduation pose. The student is smiling, radiating the confidence of ultimate transmutation. That raw material from the start has been completely refined into the gold we see at the finish line. Those final seconds, from 18 to 25, deliver the ultimate payoff. The final smiling photo, the graduation-style pose. This permanently marks the end of this specific journey, and it summarizes the immense emotional weight of the entire experience. The transformation is complete. The alchemy worked. The raw curiosity we started with has definitively, finally become a hard-earned degree. So, we've seen how just 25 seconds of cinematic imagery can beautifully encapsulate 7 whole semesters of grueling, rewarding, life-changing alchemy. We watched raw interest transmute into enduring expertise, which leaves us with the absolute most important takeaway of this entire explainer. When you don that metaphorical lab coat and step up to your own workbench, what will your initial curiosity transform into?